Hey friends, today I want to talk a little bit about mindset, and I want to tell you a little bit about my journey with fitness and with hiring a personal trainer over the last year because it's actually really relevant to this as well as to healing my trauma. So some of my trauma revolves around control and feeling restrained and restricted, and I don't do well with that at all. I went through a whole phase, if you read the Unravel book, where I had to honey badger, which meant that I had to honor my needs the moment that I had them. And it was something that was really hard for me to learn, but was really, really important to my healing. So that meant things like literally not doing anything I didn't want to do at all, or the moment that I was done, whether that was being at a restaurant or being in the middle of an event or whatever it was, I would stop doing it. I would get up, I would leave, and I had to stop worrying about and taking care of other people's feelings. So that was a really important part of my healing and regaining a sense of control over myself and my life and feeling like I could move freely when I needed to and that I could take care of myself and that nobody had control over me. And so while it was a really important part of my healing, as with a lot of those kind of transitional healing processes that we go through, at some point it actually became a hindrance. And when I first moved out here, so I think it was last spring or summer, after I moved out here, I decided I wanted to hire a personal trainer. I love my gym, it's affordable, he's wonderful, and I was really excited to focus on my health and my fitness in a more focused way. And if you've ever worked out with a trainer, at least a good one, you know that they push you and they push you hard. And so what started happening is, as he pushed me harder and harder, as he pushed me past my physical limits, because his goal has always been to basically take me to failure. Sometimes he has to catch me or catch the weights. So actual failure. I would hit that point of, I don't want to do this. I do not want to be here anymore. This is uncomfortable. It hurts. It's not what I want to be doing. And this is really normal when we're pushing our edges, whether it's something like fitness or healing or growth. We hit that point of discomfort. And I actually started having panic attacks. They were mild, and one of them sent me outside crying at one point, but I actually had to have a conversation with him and had to have multiple conversations with myself to adjust my mindset around this. So I was doing something I wanted to do, but I was hitting an edge and I was hitting a point of discomfort, which felt like I want to stop. I don't want to be doing this anymore. It doesn't feel good. And so I had to work with my mindset around, okay, I am no longer in those early stages of healing. I can choose to do hard things. I can choose to do things and push through things that I, quote unquote, don't want to be doing because I know that they are serving me and they're helping me grow and heal. So pushing our edges is very uncomfortable. I've talked a lot about pushing our edges in other videos and other places, but it's not comfortable. It's actually meant to push us outside of our comfort zone. And in cases of healing things like trauma or working with anxiety, we sometimes actually go into things knowing I'm going to push an edge. I am probably going to have a panic attack. And so I had to shift my mindset from a state of I can stop doing anything that I want to do excuse me, whenever I am done doing it, because that's important to my healing and it's something I need to exercise and to really regain my own sense of self and my own sense of being in control of my own life, to I am choosing to do something that is hard and uncomfortable. I am going to hit that edge. It is probably going to trigger me. I am probably going to get anxious and panicky. I might have to leave. I might have to go outside and have a meltdown and then come back in and pick up the weight and do it again. And I actually had to enlist the support of my trainer and say, look, this is what's going on. I have trauma. I have a trigger around doing things that I don't want to do, and it's something that I want to work through. So I just need you to know that I will probably have a panic attack at some point or multiple times, and there's nothing you need to do. It just needs to happen, and then I will come back to it. So that was one part of it, and it really did help me start to heal that aspect of my trauma. I am able to do a lot more things that are uncomfortable. I'm able to push my edges in ways that I wouldn't have been able to before because I worked on my mindset in that specific way of saying, I'm going to push an edge. It's going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to do it anyways. It is time for me to grow in this way, and I want to be able to do things that are hard and uncomfortable so that I can get better and I can heal. Now, once I stopped training with him and the pandemic hit and I had tendonitis, there was a lot going on that meant I couldn't work out. And I had this intuitive hit that said, read about bodybuilders and ultramarathoners, not because I want to be one, but because I need to deepen my work around mindset. I had pushed my edges quite a bit, not just around fitness, but in a lot of different ways. But if I really want to create a life that is aligned for me, and I want to create something different, and I want to step into a new way of being, mindset is key. How we think about and approach and frame everything that we're doing and everything that's happening around us is what limits us or what allows us to create what we want. And so I knew that I needed to work on my mindset. And so I read a couple of really great books. The first one, Finding Ultra by Rich Roll, is really amazing. So he was a middle-aged, out of shape, unhealthy guy that decided to start doing ultra marathons and doing some really crazy races, and talks a ton about the mindset piece of that. And then the second book, which I really love and really recommend, Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. And something that he talks about is that when we hit that edge, we're really only about 40%, we're only using about 40% of what we're capable of doing. So he's talking specifically about doing physical things as well, but also pushing himself well beyond his limits based on what he had been through in his life, his own traumas, his own struggles, his own different ways that he suffered. But when we want to quit, we're only utilizing about 40% of what we're capable of. And that really struck a chord for me, not just in things like fitness and gaining strength, but in growth and healing. When we get uncomfortable, when we're ready to quit, when we want to go back to what's known and familiar, we've barely scratched the surface of what it is that we are capable of creating and doing and having and being. And so I have recently gotten back into working out now that things are opening up. I am doing some one-on-one with my trainer again, just basically the two of us in the morning, which has been great. But I have noticed a significant change in my mindset, which has allowed me to do things physically that I wasn't even able to do before. I am really able to push myself past that point of discomfort, past that point of wanting to quit. And it is so powerful. Again, this is not just about fitness. This is about what are we doing? What is it that we're trying to create, especially when it feels impossible, especially when we're pushing our edges and we're trying to grow and heal. We are going to hit up against those points of discomfort where we want to stop and where we probably usually do. And again, context and discernment, two of my favorite words. Only you know, based on the situation, what you're trying to do and where you're stopped, whether or not it's a time to push forward or whether or not it's a time to stop. Only you can know that, and you really have to trust yourself in that. You have to be willing to be honest with yourself because, like I said, last year I had to get honest and say this is no longer something that I need to stop around. I actually need to work on pushing my edges and pushing myself into points of panic even, triggering myself so that I can learn a new way of being and I can heal and I can move to the next level. So mindset is so huge. I really love David Goggins' books. I see that you read it, Marie. It's such an amazing book. He's got some great interviews online. Actually, him and Rich Roll did an interview on Rich Roll's podcast, which is just phenomenal. I would recommend listening to that. It's a couple hours long. But all of this to say, it comes down to our mindset. We have to be really aware of what it is that we're thinking, what it is that we believe, and why. How our subconscious programming and our patterns and our core wounding and our traumas and our triggers are driving us. Something a client and mentor of mine says often is that we think we have free will. Really, we're just being run by our subconscious programming. So we really have to dig deep into our own mental framework and how we view the world and how we respond and react to things and how we interpret information and the way that we talk to and think about ourselves and what's happening. So I just want you to think about today something that you're trying to do that feels impossible, something that you've been trying to do that maybe you haven't succeeded at. Maybe you keep getting stuck in a loop and you keep going back to a way of being or a point or a level that you don't want to be at anymore. And just notice what your mindset is around that. What do you think about yourself? What do you think about the thing you're trying to do? What do you believe? What are your beliefs and your values that actually drive you? What are your motivations? Where do you stop and why? That's a big one. Where do you stop and why? How do you distract yourself? How do you convince yourself to go back to what's known and familiar? None of this is to make yourself feel bad. And we have some resources here in the Call of the Void group that you can utilize from the 8 weeks of journey mapping. I recommend checking those out, especially in the middle section. We talk a lot about the mind and the subconscious and our winning strategies and things like that. But just start with noticing. It's really, really important to do that with no judgment and not making yourself bad and wrong. If I had beat myself up at the start of this fitness journey, I wouldn't be where I am. I probably would have just quit and I would have decided that I suck or it's too hard or he's not the right trainer or whatever it is, versus being willing to be honest with myself with no judgment and saying, I am doing something here that is stopping me from growing in a way that I said I want to grow. I'm pushing myself outside my comfort zone, and that sucks. It is meant to be uncomfortable. It's literally what it feels like for our cells to change and our neural programming to rewire. It's just what it feels like. So how is my trauma and my triggers stopping me from doing this? So it just requires a whole lot of honesty. That's what I have today. If you guys have questions, or if you're not sure how to identify where your mindset might be getting in the way, please let me know. I'm happy to support you, and I will be back soon in another video.